Hey mathematicians, we are today talking about fractions. So think back to what you remember from fractions in third grade. What do you remember so far about fractions from third grade? Do you remember some terms? Do you remember how to create a fraction, how to draw a fraction, maybe how to split something up or recognize a fraction? I'm sure there's a ton of stuff you remember, but if you don't, that's okay because I'm going to tell you a lot about fractions today. So the first thing that we need to know about fractions is that we write them with two numbers and a line between them. So the number on top is what we call the numerator, and the number on bottom is what we call the denominator. So I want to talk about the denominator first. The denominator is when we're thinking, I've got a pizza illustration here, and this pizza, I'm thinking how many equal parts. This is important that the parts have to be equal, okay? They have to be equal here. So how many equal parts make up the whole? So if I had parts the same size, how many of them would equal one whole pizza or one whole whatever the fraction is? So in this case, if I have four pieces the same size, that's going to equal one whole. So the denominator would be 4 because the whole is divided into 4 equal parts. If my pizza was divided into 8 equal pieces, then my denominator would be 8. Now, the denominator is always how many it takes to equal one whole, okay? The numerator is how many parts do you have? So looking at this pizza here, I've got 3 that are shaded. It looks like this one's missing. So my numerator would be 3 because I have 3 of the pieces that go into this. So I have 3 of the 4 total pieces. So my fraction would be 3/4. So my fraction here, I have 3 total pieces, or 3 pieces, but my whole is divided into 4. So my numerator is 3. How many do you have? 4. How many does it take to equal one whole? It's important that we remember that these pieces have to be equal, the same size, because think about it, if you were had a chocolate bar and you split it in half, but your piece is way bigger than the friends that you were giving those to, they're going to say, hey, these aren't equal. These aren't both 1/2. Yours is a lot more. So you need to make sure that the size of the pieces are equal to each other in order to be fractions. So we're going to work a lot with fraction bars this year, and when we look at these fraction bars, we're going to be thinking, okay, what fraction would I have that represent, or what name could I call this fraction? Well, I want to think of my denominator first. So how many pieces would I need to equal one whole? How many pieces is this whole equal to? Because this whole thing here is equal to one whole. One whole. Okay? So this big box here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. So my denominator here, the number on bottom, would be 4. So it would be 4 because I have 4 equal pieces. There are 4 equal pieces to equal one whole. But how many of them are shaded? Well, I only have shaded 1, 2, 3 boxes. So my fraction, or my numerator, would be 3 because I only have 3 of them shaded. So my fraction would be 3/4. So the same way that this is 3/4 here, so is this 3/4 because I have 4 equal pieces, but only 3 of them are shaded. You may have worked with number lines last year, which is awesome, a great way to use fractions. It's a lot like the fraction boxes, but here I have an example of a number line. Again, we're always going to be talking about one whole, all right? So on this fraction, it has how many different sections? Well, I've got 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sections. So this 1 whole is divided into 8 equal pieces. So you can see here as I get to the first one, it's labeled 1/8, then 2/8, then 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and this one would be 8/8, but that's the same thing as 1 whole. So if I was right here, if I had some jumps here, okay, I have 3 out of a total 8. So my fraction would be 3/8. So you could use a number line, you could use fraction boxes, or in mini lesson or in the activity, you're going to see some really cool fractions that don't use either of these. Okay, so a little bit of a refresher. The numerator is the number on top. How many equal parts do you have or are shaded? And the denominator is how many equal parts is the whole divided into. So how many would it take to equal 1 whole? And those pieces, again, have to be equal or the same size.